good evening, good morning, folks. It's another late night, early morning episode of the post game notes here at Sticks and the Six podcast, brought to you by the fine folks over at the Hockey Podcast Network. As always, with these game notes, post game notes, it's just myself, Andrew Forbes, looking to reel in a little bit of what happened in, I guess you'd say, last night's game. For those that do tune in this early, thank you, welcome. I appreciate it. Be sure to get in on the comments, on the conversation. We can talk a lot about what happened in Boston last night as the Maple Leafs took that one 5-4 in overtime, overcoming a 3-goal deficit. We will get to that in just a second, but of course, before we do, we are brought to you by the fine folks over at the Hockey Podcast Network, as well as DraftKings, SeatGeek, No Name Hockey, BioSteel, and of course, the Indie Ale House. It was a fun game. The reason that these late night episodes do happen from time to time is because, well, I'm at work and my full-time job, and I work the night shift, so I get to see a little bit of the game. I like to watch the game before I jump on here and talk about what happened. It was another rough rivalry game, what we've gotten used to between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Boston Bruins over the years, especially recently. It was feisty. There was physicality. There was frustrations that boiled over a little bit, and it was, as always, a high-scoring, fun, eventful game. And of course, as I mentioned, the Maple Leafs did make it happen. They managed to come back, score in the last minute of the game, 46 seconds left, just over 46 seconds left, when they scored to tie it before the overtime winner. Of course, we'll get to that in a few minutes here. But what's crazy about this 3-goal deficit, and I know all you Leaf fans are used to hearing it the other way, but it was 3-0. It was 3-0. We're used to hearing it from the Bruins fans, that same slogan. We finally get to say it, albeit in a regular season game. But the Leafs were down 3-0. It was the first time since November 7th, 1963, that the Toronto Maple Leafs came back from a 3-goal deficit in Boston at the TD Garden. Like I said, scored in the last last 46 seconds of the game. Again, it was Pontus Holmberg. We'll get to him in just a moment as well. But the Leafs are now 3-0 coming out of the Four Nations break. They are 1 point up on the Florida Panthers for first in the Atlantic with a game in hand. The Florida Panthers are without Matthew Tkachuk right now. This could be an interesting lead into the playoffs. Obviously, the Leafs have now played 58 games. That means they have 24 left in their regular season. So still a lot of hockey. A lot of things can change. But the Leafs do have one game in hand. They are 1 point up on the Florida Panthers for that first spot in the Atlantic Division. Let's get right into it with Chris Tanev. Chris Tanev obviously has been an absolute monster for the Leafs this year defensively. Obviously scoring in a recent game as well, so he's added a little bit of offense. Leafs haven't had much from their defense over the course of this season, but 2 shifts in, 49 seconds of ice time, Chris Tanev leaves the ice after a hit in the corner behind his own net, and is later seen leaving TD Garden with his right arm in a sling. So, let the speculation start. Obviously, we're going to go worst case scenario right off the hop. Dislocated shoulder. Are we talking maybe an elbow injury? It did look like he got pinched in the boards a little bit. Obviously, it was a clean hit. There was nothing wrong with the hit. It was a strong hit. It was a big hit in the corner. But yeah, it's tough to see the NHL's leader in block shots go out like that, especially a guy that's been a force for the Leafs blue line this season. To watch him kind of go down, it was not a fun sight for the Leafs in this one, especially so early on in the contest as well. They had to battle. They had to battle, and that was huge for them tonight. Is that they had to come back. They had to find a way to get things done with five defense, and with it they were able to, you know, come together as a unit, as a team, and they were able to get the job done. Obviously, the concern now is on Chris Tanev, on his health, on how long he's going to be out, how long the Leafs are going to be without this stalwart of a defenseman on the back end, and hopefully it's not going to be for too long. Hopefully it's an injury that can be managed. That said, you want this guy 100% for playoff time. So if he's out for long term, it's going to open up opportunities for other players within the system. Maybe the Leafs have to look at a possible trade come trade deadline if it's going to be like an LTIR move. There's a lot of possibilities here. We will obviously update you with more when that comes. Not sure if we're gonna have a full episode this week. Peter is on the IR. He had some work done, so he's healing up, and we wish him all the best as well. Hopefully, he's feeling good and feeling up to jumping back on this in a short time. But right now, he's definitely on the shelf. So we will obviously update you. Check out the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll have an update for you when the Chris Tanev news is released. Outside of that, the Leafs story since the Four Nations break has been depth scoring. They've focused more on playing as a unit, playing as a group, playing as a strong team rather than just the top three, the big guys, the Nylanders, the Matthews, the Tavareses. Obviously, they've still had some input on the offensive end. That said, you've seen the guys like Nick Robertson, you've seen the Pontus Holmbergs, you've seen the Alex Steves get involved on the offensive end of the puck as well, and it's been a great thing to see, especially from a Maple Leaf standpoint, when that's what they've lacked over the last number of years. That's what they've lacked come playoff time. So to see that kind of come alive a little bit here in the second half, that's exactly what you want to see. That said, it did come down to one of the big names in this one, as they were able to get it done in overtime. Anthony Stolarz, I know it looks bad. It's under 900 save percentage, but Anthony Stolarz stopped 32 of 36 shots. There were some big saves at the end of the first period on Morgan Geekie to keep the Leafs at a 2-0 score. Obviously, they went down 3-0 10 minutes into the second period. That didn't change anything. The Leafs were able to come back. They were able to get it done. Stolarz came up with some huge saves, including one in overtime just before the Marner goal. And if you talk to Marner, he puts all of that resiliency on Stolarz, saying, he made some big saves throughout the game. If it weren't for him, we wouldn't have been able to get the job done. Obviously not his best game. This is just his second start since coming back from injury. Third start since coming back from injury. So, there's still some rust there. Still has to get some of his timing down. That said, he came up big when he needed to, and I think that's got to be the takeaway for Anthony Stolarz in this one. Again, not a strong game, an 889 save percentage. Obviously, giving up 4 goals, not ideal. The second one, it went off McCabe's face, dropped right in front of the net, and Marchand was there to put it away. So nothing much he could do on that, and then the giveaways in front of the net obviously led to the other goals as well. So, not his best game, but a big game nonetheless for Anthony Stolarz. Moving on, Morgan Rielly. We talked a little bit early on here about how the Leafs have not had defensive scoring a lot this season. Morgan Rielly comes up with a 4-point night, a 1 goal, 3 assists, 4-point night in 27:42 of ice time. So not only was he eating up a lot of the ice time that was given up by Chris Tanev, but he also went out and had a big 4-point night, something that we haven't seen a lot from Morgan Rielly this season, something we would like to see more of from Morgan Rielly this season. Regardless, tonight was a night that he showed up against a team that he knows oh so well with his years and his runs with the Maple Leafs. The 4-point night gives him 7 goals and 30 points in 58 games. So I mean, I know we're talking about a down year for the Leafs 30-year-old defenseman, but regardless of that, certainly a strong performance tonight, and it looks like he could be getting back on track right at the right time. What is even more interesting is that the whole point of bringing in Tanev and re-signing McCabe and all that was to make sure that Morgan Rielly was given the opportunity to play his game, play that offensive-minded, that offensively driven game. And while he hasn't been able to do that as much as we would like to see this season, the opportunity now presented itself with Tanev out of the lineup for Rielly to get more ice time, and 28, just shy of 28 minutes, and he finds a way to post 4 points. It's definitely a good sign for the Maple Leafs going into the latter part of the season. Before we continue, just a quick word from the fine folks over at DraftKings Sportsbook. It might not feel like it, but spring's right around the corner. Know how you can tell? Golfers are hitting the links, and we have some tournaments to talk about. And if you want to do more than just talk, put your money where your mouth is. Get in on all the tee to green action with DraftKings Sportsbook. From Thursday's opening round through the closing round Sunday, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered with tournament props, live betting, odds, boosts, and so much more. If you've never bet on golf before, it's easier than you think. Just pick something simple, like a golfer to win the tourney, and make your pick. It's just that easy. I know for me, I always like to go Scheffler. Scheffler always has a decent chance to finish top 10. You can bet top 10. You can bet him to win the tournament. Doesn't matter what it is. The easiest bet to make is to pick a golfer and ride that guy through 4 rounds. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. 21 plus age varies and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Anyways, back to the Leafs' big overtime win. As we mentioned, Nick Robertson's been on a bit of a heater as of late. His second 2-point performance in the last 2 games, 3 goals in the last 2 games. If you're talking about the Tucks, 4 points over that span as well. Now it's 16 points through 50 games. I know it's not huge. I know it's not what we wanted from Nick Robertson, especially after his requested trade in the offseason. But he seems to be coming alive right at the right time. The Leafs' top 4 players haven't been doing the scoring. Bob McMahon hasn't scored in the last few games. Matthew Nyes hasn't scored in the last few games. So Nick Robertson has stepped up, and that's a huge piece, especially heading at the deadline. There's a lot of conversation around Nick Robertson in terms of needing maybe a fresh start, needing something new. Is something going to get done? Is he going to be on the move? Is he a guy that the Leafs want to re-sign again in the offseason based on what he's produced this season? That's a major question mark. But the fact that he's starting to heat up, that you're seeing a little bit more offense from this guy is certainly something that that Leaf fans have to be excited about, regardless of whether it's going to lead to a trade or maybe he finds his groove in Toronto. But 11 goals now in 50 games. I said it at the beginning of the year. If this guy gets the ice time, he could be a 20-goal scorer. He's now just 9 shy. Could it happen? Maybe, but regardless, he's showcasing a little bit more of what he's able to do. He's added that physicality. He was in the face of the Bruins tonight, and all good things coming from Nick Robertson right now. He sees the game a little differently, and he's finding himself in spots that are leading to high danger opportunities. So that's good news for the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's good news for Nick Robertson. And it's always good news for the league when you can get a guy of his caliber going hot and getting opportunities like that to score. So we'll see if that can continue over the next few games. On that note as well, Pontus Holmberg also 4 goals in the last 3 games, 5 points over that span. Now 13 points in 46 games this season, 4 shy of a career high where he had 17 points last season. So I mean, you're talking about depth. You're talking about a guy that plays on that bottom line. He's kind of worked his way up the lineup here and there throughout the season. 4 goals in the last 3 games, including the game-tying goal tonight with 46 seconds left. What a compliment to a guy like Pontus Holmberg to be on the ice in the dying seconds of the game and to get that opportunity to be there with the goalie pulled and be counted on by Craig Berube. Such an important moment in the game, such an important moment for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And there's Pontus Holmberg putting his 4th goal in the last 3 games into the net and getting this game to go to overtime. So that was a high note for both Holmberg and the Maple Leafs as well. If they can get him going, what a crazy team this is going to be. Before we get to Marner, there's one thing I did want to note. I was one of the biggest things when they called up Alex Steeves this week was, you want to get this kid in the lineup. He had that wicked shot for his first NHL goal. All of a sudden, you have a game against Boston. Alex Steeves plays just under 6 minutes. He plays under 10 minutes. He's the only Leaf to play under 10 minutes. What the hell are we doing? We're talking about a guy who was leading in the AHL. He's the franchise leader for the Marlies in goals. And you're down a player right now on the back end. There has to be a reason why you're only playing him six minutes. He's got the ability. He's got the hockey IQ. I want to if you're gonna have Alex Steeves at the NHL level, I want to see more from him. And obviously, he's the first guy that you think of when you're talking about Yarncroke coming back. He's got to go down. You're probably gonna have to make a move to open up some cap space. You don't have the 2.1 million right now for Yarncroke to come back. But if you're going to have Alex Steeves up at the NHL level, don't waste the talent and sit him on the bench and play him for 5 minutes a fucking game. It doesn't make sense. It simply does not make sense to have him up there for 5 minutes a game. So we'll see where that goes. But obviously, he's going to be the first guy to probably go down once the roster moves are made. Now with Chris Tanev out of the lineup, who knows what the moves are going to be. But like I said, follow the channel, subscribe to the channel, and we will update you when we do know more about that injury. Finally, I know this has been a talking point on the podcast the last couple of weeks with the Four Nations face-off happening. Obviously, a noted Penguins fan decided to heckle Mitch Marner, which I think was complete bullshit in the first place anyways. But Mitch Marner, 2 goals again tonight, including the overtime winner. He was all over the place. He was a firebug. And it's worth noting that I listened to an interview on another podcast recently about with Nathan McKinnon, who was training in Vail with Mitch Marner this offseason. And he said, you hear all these negative things about a player and you start to believe it a little bit until you get on the ice and you see this guy play. And then you're like, where the hell are all of these negative thoughts coming from? Where are these negative ideas coming from surrounding a player? So to that noted Penguins fan, I mean, the Nate Dogg is saying that Mitch Marner is an elite player, a top end talent player. Is he at the level of maybe the Crosbys and the McKinnons? Maybe not, but he's right up there with those guys. There's a reason why he was on Team Canada. There's a reason he's come back, and he's been a force for the Leafs since he's come back. He's got 2 goals, including the overtime winner tonight, 18 goals and 73 points on the season in 57 games, and he's just 14 points back of Draisaitl and Nathan McKinnon for the league lead in points. If you don't see what's right in front of you, don't even bother saying anything, because you're going to sound like an idiot when you say that Mitch Marner is not a top tier player in this league. Once again, he shows up for the Maple Leafs. Once again, he has an incredible overtime winner. And if you miss the play just prior to that, the drop back to his back skate, kicked it over to Tavares, got the puck back, and almost put that one away before the puck went the other way. But this guy's like bleeds raw talent. And so anybody who questions that needs to give their head a shake, because this kid I can call him that. He's younger than me. This kid is he's on fire. And if you've been following the news about whether he's going to be re-signed or not, TSN's Darren Dreger did say that, or did report that it looks more and more like he's headed to free agency. Darren Ferris, who's his agent, loves to take his agent or his clients to free agency so that they get full market value. We'll see that where that goes, but it's obvious that Mitch Marner wants to be in Toronto. His wife is pregnant now, so there's that to consider as well. If that plays into it, I'm sure it does. I don't know how life outside of hockey doesn't play into it. So congratulations to Marner and his wife on the announcement. But I mean, this guy, what was maybe most noteworthy, not outside of the 2 goals tonight, was that after the game, one of the things he said was, "That's something you like to see out of this team." And he's talking about the 6-on-5 goal, the goal that Pontus Holmberg just was grinding in front of the net and got it done. And those are the things that you want to hear from your leader. Those are the things you want to hear from one of the guys in the dressing room who are supposed to be out there and leading the charge and being the noisemakers in this lineup. And recently I came out with a piece at the Hockey Writers, and it talked about bringing back that winning mentality from the Four Nations face-off. You were playing with McKinnon, who's won a cup. You were playing with Crosby, who won a cup. You're playing with Makar, who won a cup. You're playing with Stone, who won a cup. Reinhart. You're surrounded by all these winners. How do they approach the game? And to hear that comment, sure, maybe he's saying he knows what to say and he's saying the right thing in the right situation. Regardless, it's the approach of this team mentality, and we're going to grind through these 3-0 deficits, and we're going to find a way to get it done. And that's what you want to see from these players, especially going into the playoffs, especially with the lack of success the Leafs have had in the playoffs in recent years. Is Mitch Marner ready to take it to the next level? Possibly. And this is where contract talks will come into play, is I think after we see what he can do in the playoffs. I think Brad Treliving's going to make his move, and I think it's going to be a fair deal when it's all said and done. Outside of that, Marner did give Stolarz a ton of credit, noting that he made some big saves down the stretch. All around, a huge game for the Toronto Maple Leafs in a comeback win against their rival Boston Bruins, and a big one. First time, if you missed the start of the show, first time since November 7th, 1963, that the Leafs came back from a 3-0 deficit in Boston against the Bruins. If you've been following along the standings, the Bruins now sit 2 points back of the Columbus Blue Jackets for that second wild card spot. Obviously, the Rangers and the Senators are also 2 points back. Columbus does have a game in hand on Boston as well. Ottawa has a game in hand on the Columbus Blue Jackets. So a lot of teams owning their own fate in the standings. But right now, the Boston Bruins are sitting outside of the playoff picture, and the Leafs are able to get it done against the team outside the playoff picture. something that we constantly harp on over the years as well. So, for those tuning in tonight, thank you very much for tuning into the post-game show here at the Sticks and the Six podcast. As always, we love getting in on the conversation. We would love if you got in on the conversation as well. Be sure to tune in, as we will have more of these coming throughout the season. Make sure you tune in this week if we do get a show going. Hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. That way you can stay in tune, in touch with what's going on here at the Sticks and the Six podcast, as well as the Hockey Podcast Network. As always, brought to you by DraftKings, No Name Hockey, BioSteel, and Indie Ale House. And at SeatGeek, make sure you use code STICKSIN6. That's STICKSINTHE6IX for $20 off your first purchase of tickets for not just hockey, not just baseball, not just basketball, anything over at SeatGeek. Make sure you check out SeatGeek for $20 off your first purchase. Outside of that, it was a big win for the Leafs, 5-4 in overtime. Mitch Marner gets the game winner. And until next time, that's all we got here for the post-game notes at Sticks and the Six podcast.